Stream. Beep boop beep boop beep boop.
Oh, and then she gets tones now.
Yes, I'm giving it tones, okay?
Give it tones, tight tones, loose tones, bell tones, all the tones.
And we are now live.
We are live. Hello, everybody in Facebook land. Welcome to Interesting as AZ, the show where the Grand Canyon sisters bring interesting people in Arizona to you so we can celebrate the diversity of people in this fair state. We are the Grand Canyon Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, an Arizona house of a worldwide order of 21st century nuns with two primary missions: the promulgation of universal joy and the expiation of stigmatic guilt. And today we will talk about how guilt comes into play when you got a gay hero. What? We'll find out. Today we're going to be talking to author Cody Wagner, and I'll introduce him in just a second. But I want to get a few ground rules. My name is Sister Mimosa Romero. I will be your hostess today. We're going to be chit-chatting and jabberjawing and jawboning, as people might say. I don't say it often, but in terms of jaw and a bone, it makes me happy. And we talking, and then you out in Facebook land, you can ask some questions of Cody too. But before we get started, I'm going to turn it over for just a moment to Sister Opalese to talk a little bit about the technology rules. Although we've all been living in technology, we just got to set some rules. So Sister Opal, could you give a couple points about what people should expect?
Okay, basically don't talk over each other, keep it orderly fashion. Out in Facebook land, if you want to say anything, just shoot us a comment and we will go ahead and make sure it is read aloud and we will answer you. Pretty simple and easy. Let's have a fun time.
Simple and easy, just like me. Thank you. So, who are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking with a very decorated, award-winning LGBTQ-centered author, Cody Wagner. Everybody give a wave your butt, wave your finger, clap, whatever you do. Mr. Cody Wagner, woohoo, shake 'em, shake 'em. Cody, thank you so much for being here. Tell us about you very briefly.
Oh, very briefly.
Very briefly.
I'm
with your briefs.
Hi, I'm Cody Wagner. Done. No, I'm Cody Wagner, and I am the author of the LGBTQ trilogy, young adult, called The Gay Teen's Guide to Defeating a Siren. And it's in the background, but I have them here as well. So I'm gonna flash them by. And I don't know how much, because I don't know if we're going to go into a synopsis or about the book later, or if I should give a little bit about that now, or what.
We'll get into that in just a moment. I want to share a little bit about how we're connected a little bit so people can get a sense of your generosity. And truly, what's important about this is we're talking about a book with you, obviously the author of the book, where the hero is gay. Now, a lot of people say, why the hell does that matter? And we'll get into that. But Cody's spirit of generosity, I want everyone to be aware. As sisters, as we move up through this process, we have to do a project. And I did a novice project involving community theater. And Cody was more than generous enough to donate some books, help out with the event, and even donated some books to a local shelter and the books went to a shelter for at-risk youth, LGBTQ youth, called Mulligan's Manor. And Cody didn't even know me. He just came in, helped, gave some books, said, here, let me do something. So I just need people to hear that and know that about you, Cody, because you just showed up and helped us. So thank you. Oh, but that's the first time I had ever heard of the Gay Teen's Guide to Defeating a Siren. It's like, what the hell? So what the hell is the Gay Teen's Guide to Defeating a Siren?
Well, so first, I have to say that I was secretly a fan of yours before that. Yeah, because you did, so I don't know if people know that, but my other half was directing a sketch comedy troupe, and you were a performer in it. And I remember watching you, and I thought you were so funny. And so that's why whenever you asked me, I was like, I get to donate books to a celebrity. I'm so happy. So it was my pleasure. Yeah, so now we're both blushing. So anyway, about my books. So it's a trilogy again, and it's about, at its core, it's a teenager. And there's a little spoiler, but it's a teenager who comes out of the closet. His very homophobic parents freak out and they drag him off to this really awful pray away the gay boarding school. However, whenever the parents leave, the school reveals it's actually a secret refuge for gay teens, and he gets to go to a secret gay high school. And so I was really happy because I wrote this essentially for young me, who was very lonely and grew up in a very homophobic area. And so it would have been a way for me to have gone to a secret gay school. I also love fantasy. I've been immersed in fantasy reading ever since I was young. And so I wanted to have a fantasy element to the book as well. So I came up with this idea of a siren who basically can control people using her voice. And she is terrorizing the school, and they're trying to figure out why. And that's where I know you mentioned like in the show notes, but that's this idea of being gay actually becoming a superpower is what plays into that. So, and I don't know if we talk about that now or if that's a question that comes up. I have to ask you real quick, when you said AF, did you censor yourself out?
No, I don't want to get all our Facebook accounts banned, so I don't know what's going on. So I try to be a little quiet. Everyone can fill the hole. Interesting A. Y'all heard it. You know.
It looked professional.
Ooh. Ooh.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Hi.
Sometimes you get some unmuted excitement, so you never know what's going to happen online.
Hallelujah.
So before I get something, I have to ask, are you gay?
Well, I actually am homosexual, yes.
No.
I don't like, playing into the butch mask thing, but I will have you know that I'm a queen and I love it.
So why
I came out, actually I was one of the kids who I always knew I was gay and I always accepted myself. And so I'm so proud of myself for that, because even though I grew up in a homophobic town, I actually knew and loved myself for being gay. I just knew I couldn't come out. And I thought it was a really interesting thing because I have a twin sister. And so we grew up in the exact same household, and she's lesbian. And so we're the only gays and only twins and like our whole family. So it was like the weirdest thing ever. But she did the exact opposite. She grew up hating herself. She was in denial. She ended up getting married and having 73 children before she turned 30.
I heard it was 75. Actually.
Oh, well, she gave 2 of them up for adoption because she thought they might be sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. So, no. and then she ended up accepting and loving herself and coming out. So it's a really crazy kind of split between us.
Where did you grow up? I don't remember. You say I don't remember what town, if I even knew.
Oh yeah, so it's a town. So Amarillo, Texas, up in the Panhandle of Texas. Yeah, you can imagine the most gay-friendly place in the world. There's a little bitty town by there called Pampa. So it's like Tampa, Florida, but with a P.
Pampa?
Yeah, Pampa. And so the book is
so
actually.
Were you a Pampon?
No one's ever said that before. It's actually okay. So funnily enough, related to that, I went to Pampa Middle School, and so our cheer was PMS is the best. That was our cheer.
Shut up.
So I think Pampon, it goes with that.
Wait a minute. Say that one more time. This was a legitimate cheer.
Yeah. I remember being in the school bus and all of us going, PMS is the best.
Was this an all-boys school?
It was, and there were girls saying it too. Just
Ladies
everybody saying it.
This is what happens when you don't have diverse opinions when making decisions. You have songs called PMS. Thank you.
It is the best. Yeah, exactly. And so as you saw in the book, it's actually set in Pomada, Texas. So it's like a take on Pampa, because whenever I was a senior in high school, we sang in New York at a Mets game. And on the giant Jumbotron, they said, "Welcome, Pomada High School." And so I knew that I would at some point in my life do a tribute to that misspelling. So this was it.
Oh my God, that sounds bizarre. How many people lived in Pampa?
So Pampa, it's about like 14,000 people.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's not like a suburb. It's like its own standalone little place.
What were your parents like? I know I have a bit of a understanding about your mom, and I know she's passed, but what were your parents like for you?
Well, it was really interesting. So my mom is very Catholic, because there are the Catholics that go to church every Sunday. And then, there are the Catholics who say rosaries every night and try to recruit the neighborhood kids to say rosaries with you. That's
Is that
our family.
code for something? Like, are the men grabbing the kids? Let's say have some rosary
Like,
time.
let's have some. Let's use these beads and like pull these beads. Yeah, it was kind of one of those things.
I get
Yeah,
you. I've been
exactly. Yeah.
done that. No, I haven't. Listen.
No. And so I was supposed to be the priest in my family. That I was the one who was the most devout, the most holy, and so I was supposed to be the one that, like, whenever they would do reenactments, I was always playing the priest. Like, my mom, I'm pretty sure, prayed for me to get stigmata. Not kidding. Like, saying her nightly prayers, please, like, bless Cody with stigmata.
Bless him.
Bless
It
him.
makes masturbation so easier. You don't even have to pull it. You don't have to do anything. It's just like, oh. Didn't your family tell time and Hail Marys?
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about that. It's striking for a nun.
How did you know this? That's my literally, okay. My dad, this is so great. When my dad would call, my mom always screened her call so she wouldn't answer. And we had an answering machine. And when my dad would leave her a message, instead of saying, hey, it's me, I'll call you back in 15 minutes, he would say, hi, dear, it's me, I'll call you back in 4 Hail Marys. And he was supposed to like hang up and say his 4 Hail Marys, and then he would call her back and she would answer. And that was a real thing that happened in our household.
Wow. So how many Hail Marys does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Did your family know that?
There's 53 Hail Marys. That's how many.
Well, your sister clearly learned how with 78 children. They keep getting bigger each time.
Yeah, it keeps growing because she's having more while we're talking.
Right now. Yeah, that happens. They're very productive people, your sister or your family. What about your dad? How would you describe your mom? You describe as a devout Catholic. What about your dad?
And I want to give like a big shout out to my mom though, because she was surprisingly progressive. So it was weird because in some ways judgy Catholic, but in some ways there was actually out of nowhere someone who was trans or on the way to becoming trans who worked at our local Albertsons, and some people were making fun. And I remember, and this was years ago, and my mom was like, well, you know what, if it makes her happy, and actually like correctly identified her and said like, she's not hurting anybody, like who cares? And I was like, okay. My dad, I don't know if any of my family's listening or watching or going to. My dad is actually, he's a great guy. He really did a lot for us. He was the one who was the more passive in our family. So my mom wore the pants. So she controlled everything. And he was just kind of there, kind of doing what she said. But he was laid back. He was really silly and goofy like me. And he was fun. I mentioned once where I was like, I think dad could be bisexual. And like, all of my siblings were like, I totally thought the same thing. And this is the part where like, if they're listening, like, I don't want to like out my dad, but that is my dad.
How many siblings do you have? Is everyone in the family have some sort of gayness in them? And where do we go? Is like the biggest OnlyFans site in the state in Pamba?
The Wagner family's OnlyFans site.
Many levels.
That's where it's at. Yeah, where you get turned on in 4 Hail Marys. Oh God, I'm going to hell for this.
You're blessed.
Yeah,
you're in safe space. You're surrounded by beautiful, beautiful nuns. Let me pause because I have some questions. I can just talk all day. Sisters, do you have any questions for Cody Wagner? It's okay if you don't. I can talk all day, but he's happy to answer questions from Holy.
Wait, did you say something about your mother would love for you to be a priest or something like that?
Yeah, whenever I was growing up, I was supposed to. They thought I was going to be a priest.
Oh, you can always become a sister and become a father.
That's true. I could do that, and I do like giving back.
Yeah.
So
maybe that would be your father name, Father Wackalot.
Father, and then I can show my family and be like, your wish happened.
Yeah, and God. look at all these other beautiful nuns. See, look at that.
And y'all are gorgeous, by the way, can I say?
CW. You need to join. Consider it.
I really will. Absolutely.
We could use the rank. So how did this all, when did this gay teen guide start bubbling up in your brain? Was it in your
Oh,
crotch first and then it bubbled up, or what?
yeah. Well, it kind of went up my ass first.
That's what
And
I thought, because it was a
yeah,
little dirty, but hey.
yeah, exactly. Like it's clean but dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't need Listerine to clean out, just water. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, exactly. Listerine. Ouch. Wait, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Minty fresh holiness.
Okay. Holy. Well, my dad was the king of puns, so if he's watching, he's going to appreciate that.
Hey, Dad. What's his name?
His name is Claire.
Claire?
But, yeah, but everyone calls him Charles or
Wait,
Charlie.
are you being serious? His name's Claire?
Yeah. His name is Claire Charles, and yeah, so people have actually, I get them like, your dad's name is Claire, but that's what his parents named him.
New facts every day.
New facts every day. Yeah.
All right. So the story started
the
in your
story.
butt. Continue.
So I knew, like I'd mentioned, being in Pampa was it was a very lonely place because the gayness, it wasn't like what you might expect, where people are carrying their pitchforks around, and being outwardly homophobic. Gay was so taboo that it wasn't discussed. Like gay did not exist in Pampa. They tried to pretend that it was not a thing. And so it was really lonely, because you feel like I had a good period there all through high school where I was like, I'm the only gay person in the world, and it's really hard not having anything to identify or relate with. So I knew whenever I was a kid, I actually started off by writing Nancy Drew fan fiction. That was my big start. I love me some Nancy Drew, and that's what I grew up with. And I thought that she didn't get in enough danger. And so I was actually like older, like in high school, and I started writing fan fiction where she actually like broke her arm. And I was like, it's so edgy. And I was so proud of Nancy, like almost dying. And so I knew that I loved writing. And I knew that at one point I would write an LGBT book, that I could go back and give to people like young me, so they could have characters that they can relate to, because it's so important. But I could not actually come up with the idea for the story. I had a whole bunch. There was that Diary of a Wimpy Kid book that was going around, and I was going to write it like that. It was going to be Diary of a Gay Kid. And I actually sat down and started writing, and I literally just wrote, "Dear Diary, I'm gay." And that was as far as the book went. I could not think of anything else. So one day, me and my little sister were outside and we were drinking margaritas because, I guess all good ideas are born from alcohol. Mm-hmm. But we were chatting, and I remember being like, remember Greek mythology and you had the sirens? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, how like they would call to the ships, and the ships, that were basically manned by men would crash into the rocks because they would essentially be hypnotized by the sirens. And I was like, what if one of the crewmates was gay? Would he be immune to the siren's call? And it was just one of those questions. And I started thinking about that. And that was literally the first domino that led to the idea for this entire series, because I became obsessed with this idea that a gay male or gay kid would be immune to a siren, and that turns being gay into a superpower. And I thought that idea was really, really cool. And that's where the entire idea for the series came from a good margarita.
A good margarita. Why did you have to put, and I'm being deliberately about this because I think there's a history there. Mm-hmm. Why do you have to put the word gay in your title? Why do you got to put it out there, Cody? Why do you got to throw it in everyone's face when they're walking by Walden and scrolling through Amazon? Why has it got to be gay?
That is such a good question. I am part of a writers group here in Phoenix, and there was some debate about putting the word gay in the title. And there was a camp of yes and a camp of no. And the people that were saying no were like, you don't want to, if say people might read this and enjoy it who aren't gay, you don't want to turn them off. Or if people are against that, you don't want people, who like, you don't want to turn people off to this book. But then I was finally like, you know what? I mean, I'll say F those people. Like if someone sees this book and they don't like the word gay, you know what? I don't want them reading it anyway. I don't want their stupid money, and I liked it because, one, having the word in the title is single-handedly grasp people's attention. Whenever I'm at events or I see people, a teenager can see this and immediately know that, wow, this is going to be something that I might identify with. And then I will say some of it is like a little selfish in that, or it's more marketing. Let me say that, where, on Amazon now, you go to Amazon and you search books, there are billions of titles out there, trillions even, as many titles as my twin sister has children. More. And you have to be now, if your title and your first page don't captivate, you've lost a reader. And so that's why I was like, you know what, I want to have gay in the title, but also because I feel like this title is interesting and people scrolling through might see this title and be like, oh, well, that's something that sounds kind of different or weird, or at least something that would appeal to me, so I'm going to check it out.
So talk about the character's name. And I have read the books and I always pause, like, where is this coming from? What's the inspiration? Share with everybody, and then where does it come from?
Yeah, so oddly enough, for the other characters in the book, I actually had to put some thought behind their names. But whenever I was writing just the beginning, I didn't have a name. And I literally, it's so anticlimactic because there was no big long thought. I literally just went blah, blah, blah. I just went, Blaze is like flaming. And I think that's actually kind of fun. So his name is Blaze. And then I just went Blaze Trails. And it was just that fast because I like the name Blaze Trails, because I like this idea of having a name that almost sets him up for expectations that he doesn't want to meet. And I say that in the first book, that his parents basically say, well, you've got to make a name for yourself because it's in your name. And so that's really the entire story of that. I did, however, interesting side note, I had a person, I don't want to say the relationship, actually had a child named Blaze right after my book, and that was the saving grace. Actually, though, say that I named my book for their child and they wanted royalties. And it was someone I know actually did this. And I got a text message from someone who knows her and actually was like, you might get a message from this person who is going to try to ask for royalties for your book. I just want you to be prepared.
The shade. So is that done and closed? Do we need to pay somebody? Do we need a conference call this person in?
That would be glorious. But at this point, I don't even remember her name anymore. So it never went anywhere because she didn't have a leg to stand on, because it's the name Blaze, like somehow that's copyrighted or something.
I see some stuff in the chat. Let me have a look. Let me just pause for a moment and read.
And it's kind of funny that you say Blaze, because we actually have a sister, Blaze. It's Zelda the Blaze, but he goes by Blaze.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he's a good person. I would like Blaze.
I will not comment on that. No, it's good. He's a really good person. He lives in Portland right now.
Oh.
But he's a really good guy. He's definitely fun. Very wacky, cracky. We do got a couple questions from the chat that we missed. One is from Sister Crimea River Ho, which is my big sister. She wanted to know, because back in the back you were talking about your mother and father and your family. Mm-hmm. He wanted to know, are you still close with your parents now?
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good question. So and I'm taking this hat off because I was wanting to be proud and gay, but it's hurting. So I'm gonna show this mess underneath.
Well, your hair shows you're a proud homo. It's there.
Here we go. Let's mess it up and have a good time.
Get all fussy. Get like 1990s chic.
99. I need the butt hair if I'm gonna. There we go. Now I'm good. My relationship with my family, my parents, it's actually really great. I had the luckiest coming out story where I actually had so much acceptance, and some of it was kind of picking and choosing my times to come out whenever I figured people might be ready. And so I remember when I came out to my little sister first, and she was great. She did have the stereotype where the first thing she said was, whenever I came out to her, she just looks at me and she goes, "Did you play basketball?" Like, that was her reason why I could not be gay. It was because I play basketball. And that's why I was like, people still play into the stereotypes, and she's a good person. But that was one of those moments where it's like, oh, honey, like, we're so much more than the stereotypes. But whenever I told my mom, I was so nervous. I was so nervous to come out to her because she was Catholic. And even though she had these little signs of progression, I still didn't know. and my little sister was with me, and my little sister and I had this plan that on a 2-hour drive to Flagstaff, that's when I would come out. And on the drive, I locked up and I couldn't do it. And Wendy is like nudging me because the three of us are driving, and I'm like, I can't do it. And finally, this bitch just goes, Mom, Cody has something he needs to tell you right now. And I told her, and she was so wonderful. And she actually said at the end, she was like, because I talked about some of the hardships and some of the things that I went through being gay, you know, because it can be hard. And so she was like, so this was difficult for you, and you had some difficult times with it. So you could say that this was your cross to carry. And I was like, I guess so. And she was like, this makes you more like Jesus. So like she like said like my being gay like was my cross and maybe more like Jesus. And so that was my mom. So she was actually really great. And my dad was so anticlimactic. He was like, this is my dad. I still love you. He's Eeyore. I still love you no matter what.
You're okay.
You're gay. That's fine. And that's my long-winded story.
Oh, that's cool. Another question that we had is, where did you get your incredible hat? I know you just took it off, but
Oh, yes.
Tag it, Cody. Get some followers.
Get some what?
Get some followers. Tag your hat. Get an endorsement deal. Gay Teen Guide hats.
I should do that. That's a really good idea. I Photoshop my book onto like iPhone covers and stuff, but none of it actually is real. I just make it all up, kind of like this. So I got this hat at Comic-Con in Dallas. I actually worked a table there and sold my books at Comic-Con in Dallas. And I'm walking around the booths, and one of the booths just had like 50 of these hats. And so I had to, of course, give them some money and take one away. They actually, it's hard to tell, but it actually has like bolts in it, like bolting on the letters. So it's actually like really cool.
Oh, so you're a butch queen, huh?
Yes.
Gay hat.
My gay hat.
One of the last questions that we got was from my daughter, Eva Ho Lucian. She wanted to know, how did you think that affected the readers who are still questioning their sexuality and wanted to explore literature without coming out? Like, oh, it's a long one. Oh, no, it's not. Like the ones who would secretly buy books, but not want others to find them.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Is that talking about the title? Like,
yeah, I think so.
Oh.
That is a wonderful question. Oh my gosh, that is such a relevant question. So working like the events I have, and I've worked events in Texas and stuff, and you're going to get a mixed crowd. And I've interacted with teens in all different states of coming out. And I had one story of a girl whose name is Shelby. I'll always remember this. And she bought the books and she was so excited. And like 10 minutes later, her dad comes back and throws them at me. And he's like, I want my money back. My daughter will read nothing gay. And I gave him his money because I'm like, I'm not going to have that fight. And I still have the books for her, still signed. And I posted a message. And so that's the thing, is there are those people who need gay literature, but they're not in a position where they can walk around and show this to people. And so consequently, I am talking to my cover designer, and we are actively trying to work on what I'm calling like a privacy edition of this series. And so it'll be like an option for like events where if you would see this exact same cover, except it's just called The Teen's Guide to Defeating a Siren. And then inside, it's exactly the same book, except for like the little headline with the title is also changed. And so someone would actually have to start reading this book to know that it's actually an LGBT book. But that is something in the works because for that exact reason. So I think that's such a great question. So hopefully that'll be out here pretty soon. It's something that has been talked about. I've thrown the idea around for a while, so I'd like to make that happen.
So why not call it GT? Say it again.
Oh, I call it Tugga Tugga Dus.
Tugga Tugga Dus. Tugga Tugga Dus.
Tugga Tugga Dus. Tugga Tugga Dus.
Tugga Tugga Dus.
Tugga Dus.
Just that. How does that feel though, to have to think through that? Because that's changing the very core of your creation. If I understand why you wrote this, the origin of it, up the butt, out the mouth, out the pen, and now you're plucking the very deliberate title out of it. It sounds like you've got a reason, but how does that feel to you? Where do you feel that when you're thinking about changing it?
Honestly, I feel like what's important in this book is not the cover, the title. I feel like it's the content. And so if being able to just remove the word gay from the title allows a child to be able to read it and be affected by it, and maybe, it makes their day brighter, or like, like young me, it gives them a character they can relate to. Honestly, I'm all for it. I think that, I think it's a small price to pay to be able to reach more teenagers or people in need, if that makes sense.
Navi, thanks for checking the chat. Are there any other questions out in Facebooky land?
There are some comments from a
comment the house down.
D. Schwartz said, "I'm sure that's the first thing Cody Wagner has ever been called, Butch."
D!
And then Bill Dyer says, "D. Schwartz, that's right."
Bill's on. Are you all watching? Is Bill? Say hi, Bill. Cody, who the hell's Bill? How do you know these people commenting on you?
Okay, so D is my friend. And
I know D's your friend. You're a homo. Stop shoving it down our throats.
I was like, wait, what do you mean? So D is my friend, but also D is my friend.
There you go.
And then Bill Dyer is my other half. And I admit, he was in the other room and he fell asleep. And I was like, I'm not going to wake him up just yet, because I want to see how this goes, before he does. Because I'm like, what if I make a fool of myself? But yeah, not y'all. No, this has nothing to do with y'all. This is all here. And so I'm glad that he woke up and joined. Hi, Bill. And also, wait, can I flip off? Here, I'm flipping him off outside the screen.
Yeah.
There, for your comment.
Oh, you don't have to edit for sisters. We accept all fingers and all shapes and sizes and all gestures and love, as long as it's done with love.
With love and with consent.
Fact.
And as many fingers. Well, for some.
Just 2 to get
the question.
For Bill Dyer, many fingers.
Oh, yeah. I think fists at this point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Navi, are there any other comments we should address?
Nothing yet, but I think Pepper had a question.
Pepper! Navi,
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Pepper.
My question is, what I don't know if this was actually asked, but what inspired you to write these books? What's really behind the inspiration of the books?
Yeah. So I talked about it a little bit, but I can go into it more. Is that I want to talk about writing in general. How about that? Because I've always been had this need to create, right? And I admit, I got into singing and acting and everything. And some of it was, I am just a terrible actor. I will admit my weaknesses, and I was on stage and I'm like, I can even feel it. I'm like, man, I'm bad. And that's in the middle of a line delivery. But so I got into writing and I really enjoyed it. And I was trying to pinpoint why it was so fulfilling for me. And I finally realized that what I love about writing is I like making people feel something. And I know some people, maybe that's not that big a deal, but for me, that means so much. And that can be, it doesn't have to just be happiness, or, it can be anger, it can make you cry. But this idea of producing something that makes someone feel really deeply, to me, I love it. That's the greatest feeling, is whenever someone comes up and says, this book made me cry, or this chapter made me laugh so hard. And that's what makes it all worthwhile. So I write books in general because I want to make people feel. I write LGBT books because I know that we're so underrepresented. And they say the LGBT community as a whole, if you include the entire community, is upwards of 10% now, right? But if you look at books and TVs and movies, we don't comprise 10% of books and TVs and movies. And it's funny because we're doing so much better now, but we're still so underrepresented. And so I know that it's especially important for teenagers to have characters that are like them, because it can help you build your self-esteem. It helps you love yourself. And I think that's why it's so important.
Well, and I guess to add to that, so somebody that has read your book, what is the greatest feedback that you have gotten back from someone reading your books?
Oh, well, so let's see. I'm trying to think if it's something specific or just in general, because I remember doing a little like a presentation whenever I went to South Texas, and I did the presentation to the room. And then whenever we finished, one of the kids, he came up to me by himself and he just started bawling. And he just said, he's like, I bought your books. And he's like, I just wanted to let you know that, in South Texas and that area is not like they've come a long way, but it's not the most gay friendly, place. And he was just like, it just made me feel like I had someone there with me. I don't have gay friends, and it made me feel like I had one. And just having a character like that meant so much to me. And he was just crying, and then I'm trying to hold it in. And so that's the feedback to me that I really, really loved. Because I admit at the end of the day, I wasn't trying to write a gay book. I was trying to write a book with characters who just happen to be gay, but going through very real and also some fantastical situations and how they handle it.
I had a question about how you throttled Blaze's relationship, and I can't remember the crush. I'm sorry, off the top of my head, but the partner throughout, or the guy he had a crush on. You say it wasn't about being gay, although that was the underpinning of why he could see he was able to see. What kind of thought did you put into whether you wanted just the level of physicality? Because a gay teenager sometimes has a different experience. In your case, you had lack of experience, and suddenly it explodes all over the wall when you're 20. And that's where a lot of that hypersexual activity comes from, because repressed sexuality during the early years.
Right.
How did you decide how you're going to present that in the book?
That's a good question. For me, it was 16, not 20. Wait, what?
I thought it was 14 because there was the priest discussion, but I didn't know if that was public discussion.
No, that's my priest actually was very good. I was actually the altar boy who was like, please touch me, but they never did. Like,
I'll give you the body of Christ.
Oh my gosh. What was the question? I'm so red right now. What was the question?
The short version, because I talk a lot of shit, is how did you decide whether you're going to make him a whore or not?
Yeah. Okay. So the relationship, the boy's name is Timothy.
There you go.
And it was something where I wanted this to almost be like a borderline middle grade to begin with, which is like a younger audience, like 6th, 7th grade. And so I purposely knew that and I actually wasn't even sure if I was going to have any type of romance in it because of everything that he was going through. But then I was like, you know what? Like you had said, he's a teenager. He's going to have hormones. He's going to develop crushes. I can't just gloss over that because it's a very real thing. But I knew that I was like, if this book is going to kind of, and I don't want to give any credit necessarily so much to Harry Potter for her turfness, but this idea of it starts off middle grade, so there's not a whole lot of sex or a lot of relationship in it, but then each book kind of grows up with the character. That was why. So that's why in the last book, you basically finally get to see him have a fully fledged relationship with Timothy.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil it, but when they were in prison, that's all I'll say about it. And the thing they had to do to escape, I was surprised that you went there. Whether some of the things they had to do, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's pretty good. I like gore, death, and violence. I'm like, this book's not going to have gore, death, and violence, but it got into the space. I'm like, oh, do it, and you. So to whatever extent you can without giving spoilers, what made you decide to do that? Because that was a very intimate thing. I mean, I don't know. I can't say it without spoilers. You did to get out of the situation dealing with body parts.
And I'm actually so glad you said that, because I had a reviewer who gave the book 4 stars instead of 5, and I got the impression he really focused on that scene and was kind of like, he's like, it was really jarring that something that kind of that bad would have to happen. But I guess my thinking was, I wanted it to feel real, and I wanted there to be stakes. I wanted there to be real stakes.
Not just Omaha, bitch. You wanted something happening.
Exactly. And it felt like, and I was reasoning through how they could get out of the situation, and that popped into my head. And then I was like, you know what? If you're going to do it and you're going to make it work, you have to do it all the way, or else people will be like, well, that might not really work, or I don't want to like spoil it. But I knew, like, even in the first book, you know, with a certain death, I didn't want, even though it's a young adult book, I don't want to shy away from difficult circumstances, because that adds tension to the book. I actually think it makes it where you turn the pages more. Because imagine this, if you see a movie or read a book where you know everybody is going to live happily ever after, I don't think that's as engaging as reading a book where anybody could die, or anybody could get hurt, or anything could happen to anybody. I think that is much more riveting, because you really just don't know. And in this series, even though, like, I think you kind of know, especially because he's writing about the events in his past, that, you know, Blaze is going to live. But other than that, I was like trying to be a no holds barred. I wanted it to be like anything can happen to anybody else. And that to me is more engaging.
Well, that transparently why the third book is my favorite, because I said, oh, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? If you haven't read it, I don't want to be that person that's just going to tease you all. Sirens have voices. There's audio issues going on. Fill in the blanks as you will, or read the damn book.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I was in, but then you added, another area of the underrepresented LGBTQ population as a result of that, because now you have someone with a disability introduced into the storyline. And I'll stop there. So because I don't want to spoil it for you. I tell you, I'll go read it. It's a lot of fun, because I'm not necessarily a fan of young adult literature, because I like graphic, gore, gross, offend me deeply, and young adult literature doesn't do that. But when it got into that space, I was like, I was turning the page like, what are they gonna do?
Yay! The fact that you're like, that's not necessarily your genre, but you still read the books, that actually means a lot to me. So I really appreciate that. Really.
Oh, yes. But I want to ask you the other question. I don't get it. I'll explain the context, or you can explain it. What's with the goddamn big pumpkin thing? It happened every single book. And was this connected to your grandmother's boxes in any way, where she sent you those junk boxes? Is it?
I thought you said, is it connected to your grandmother's box?
Well, that too.
Was like,
is her ancient box involved with the squishy pumpkin?
My
is that
grandmother's
what happened?
I did see my grandmother naked once, and it was horrific.
Well, that was this before or after you realized you were gay?
This was during.
Oh, fact. Okay.
This is cause and effect. No, the pumpkin thing, that's actually so.
Well, tell people what it is, because.
Okay, so there is a game that they play in each book, and it's called the Pumpkin Bash. And basically, what happens is they take a giant pumpkin, you know, because you can get those ones that are like 400 or 500 pounds, or massive, and they essentially fill them with trash and like poop and rotten food and everything. Yeah. And they let it, and this is over Halloween. They fill it with death. That's a good way to put it. And then it becomes a tug of war game where if you push it over, it's like the younger dorm versus the older dorm. And if you pump and you push it across the other dorm's line, they lose. You get to destroy the pumpkin, and they have to clean it up.
So there's a big spooge.
Yes, it's literally like a big rotten spooge. Damn. And it's a lot of people's favorite chapter. I loved writing it. And here's the story about this. And it's really weird to me, because I was a lifeguard in college, and I had a friend who was a fellow lifeguard who was in the ROTC at A&M. And I was asking him about all the weird stuff that they do in the ROTC. And some of it is crazy, especially for freshmen. Like, they really get dunked on in the ROTC. Like, they have so many rules that they have to follow. Like, their freshman year, they're allowed an alarm clock in their room. That is all they're allowed. And then it's like their sophomore year, they get a radio, you know. Well, he told me about this game they played over Halloween, where the upperclassmen filled a big pumpkin, and it wasn't that big, but just like a pumpkin with trash and all this stuff. And he starts describing this to me. And this is based on a true story. Oh. And I was like, what? And the way that it happened, I've lost some of the details because it was a while back, but it was really like a battle between the younger and older dorms over pumpkins filled with spooge. And it's stuck with me ever since. And so whenever I thought of a game, I was like, I have to bring this back, make it bigger. But I have gone Googling and searching for this ritual at anywhere. I can't find it. It's like it doesn't exist, but I know that this story is true. Like, I didn't make this up.
Well, so what the military, there's some intersections in the military in there, and I get the storyline moved it along, but do you have any connections in military, or how did that all color your storyline?
Yeah, so we used to visit my grandmother every year over the summer, and I loved her. She was incredible, like super progressive,
Even when she
awesome.
sent you the used cereals?
She was the one that sent us the used cereals with the boll weevils in them. And the ones that sent me like Mr. Potato Heads whenever I was 17. But she was a gas. She was amazing. And her husband was military. He fought in World War II and actually helped liberate one of the concentration camps. And because of that, she had the pass to get into the Air Force Base in Tucson and Davis-Monthan. That's where she lived. So we would visit her, and basically almost every day we would drive out to the base and just shop and eat, because it's like a whole little world. And it's some of my best memories of there. I loved it. I loved going to the BX and going to the commissary. And it was just a wonderful time for me. And so it was kind of a way to bring that back as well.
Oh. We have a question. Other than Carolyn Keene, whom you know, I assume, who are your favorite authors?
Oh, well, it's Carolyn Keene is it. That's all. Do you know that that's actually not a real person, that is a pseudonym, and a bunch of people wrote for Nancy Drew?
Oh, no.
There was never a woman named Carolyn Keene. It's shocking. So it'll be Cody Lynn Keene. But so John Irving is actually the reason I became a real author. I read A Prayer for Owen Meany, and it's just literary fiction, but the way he wrote it was so mind-bogglingly beautiful. And he could write about just literally Sister Mimosa Romero taking a dump, but write it in such a captivating way that you would just turn pages and want to see how it all turns out.
Are you suggesting I'm not?
I am.
Starting it now.
This is fiction. This is fiction. He's
get your veil caught.
Thank you, actually. That's a problem.
So I love me some John Irving, and for a young adult, I love to read young adult. There's a book called Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, and it's an LGBT book. The sequel just came out, and it is everything. It's so good. And then I have read Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, and I've read it 3 or 4 times in the last year. And it's not LGBT, but it talks about it's about a Mexican teenager and just what she has to go through. And the writer I actually did an event with her. So she was like the keynote at an event I did. And so I actually got to talk to her, and she was great. And she's gifted. Her writing is so poetic and it's so beautiful. And she can say so much with so little that I actually, whenever I'm writing the book I'm working on now, I try to read her before I start writing to get that smaller but more powerful ingrained into my head.
Less words.
Less words. Less is more.
So what is the book? 2 questions then, but what is the book you're working on now?
So the one, I haven't said much about it. It's a young adult, much older. Like this has got some dirty in it, but it is young adult. And so it's about body shaming, but it's written from the perspective of a guy. And a lot of it is about just him, I think just trying to become at ease with his body and sex. And so it's kind of his journey. So there's no fantasy, it's all literary. And it's just something that just the idea came to me recently, and I decided I wanted to explore kind of the males dealing and he's a bisexual male dealing with that and body shaming, trying to find himself essentially.
What brought you to that space?
I don't know. I think that we all have insecurities. And so I was trying to just think about something to write that had some meaning. And I don't want to out this person, but an incident happened with someone, and it actually was the idea behind the book. And so basically this is about a person, and just the long story short, this is about a person who is very small endowed, who basically goes to a different school and fakes being huge because he feels that that's going to give him self-esteem.
Wait, this is the book or
That's the one that I'm working on now. Yeah.
So we're talking about bisexuality, body shaming, and penis.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's like the body shaming aspect of it. Yeah. And that was because of the event that happened. And I was like, wow, like there were like the guys out there are so like the whole big dick energy culture is such a thing that I know that there were people who are like who that kind of shits on. And that's why I wanted to explore that.
I mean, I get the big dick stuff. I do.
Yeah.
Try to. Mr. Romero gives it to me when I'm happy. That's my birthday. But is it really, I'm not connected to it in the culture as it exists today. So that big dick energy vibe, is that developing into its own, or has that always been a thing? I'm trying to wrap my mind. What's the difference between a big dick in the 70s and what is it in 2021? What's the big dick energy?
I feel like that's actually something that's interesting. It feels like it's almost that big dick energy is that kind of a newish term over the last couple of years.
Ford uses it to sell trucks, I think. No.
Do what?
Ford uses it to sell their F-150.
Yeah, exactly. To sell the trucks, the big trucks with the extended beds. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go into it. What does it coalesce into? What does it mean in 2021 now?
Well, so that's why I think that what it's turned into is it's this idea that they're saying like big dick energy means that it's at least the character in the book based on this thing thinks that big dick then equals confidence. Small dick equals inferiority, at least in his mind. So it's a type of like body dysmorphia. And like I said, there was an event that happened where a person kind of lost his mind about this. And it was like, wow, this is crazy. And I was doing some research and reading, and there's definitely two camps there. And there are people that really do feel shamed for the size of their dick, which is something that you have no control over. And that's the thing that I think is most interesting, because that is something that a man cannot change or control in any way, shape, or form. Yet there is so much, because there are size queens out there, like people, and we've all had friends that say, if you're not this big, I want nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of that culture saying, here's this thing you have no control over, yet people judge you for it. That's what it's really dealing with.
And what age group is that?
It's going to be like high school, college. It's definitely because it's dealing with something like it's dealing with a dick. So sex comes into play, nudity comes into play, everything, all that stuff comes into play during the course of the novel.
And now
we just get heavy. We just got dark. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to explore, because I do agree with that there is a lot of judgment around something that people can't control,
Yes. See all of 2020, civil unrest, all of those.
Yeah,
things.
right.
Why not blame an organ too? Big dicks, little dicks, big clits, little clits, all boobs, little boobs, all body organs. Apparently, people have to have a comment on.
Yeah.
Navi, I saw your hand. I want to get to grinders, and then we'll get to you. And we've got a few minutes left, so we'll move along, Cody, because I want to respect your time.
Oh no, you're fine.
Yeah, we have. Has any of your family read any of your books, and who, if they did?
They have no one. Now that you say that, I don't think anyone in my family has read my book. Oh, they're worthless. My family's a piece of crap. I think my twin sister. Actually, I think Corey has read the book. Corey, if you're there, or if you ever, I'm going to ask you, because I'm pretty sure that she said that she loved the books, but I don't think the rest of my family has actually touched them even. And I think it's more the thing where, they're all straight cis, that I think they feel like it's kind of not written for them. But yeah, let me say, they all have the book, but I don't think they've actually read the book.
Yeah, they're using it for coasters at this point.
Yeah.
You need to go home and force them to read. Get the audiobook, have Navi read it, and put it in their ears.
Navi's gonna read it?
Yeah, Navi will do it. Navi, you had a question, didn't you? Or were you just like hands in the air?
No, we had some Facebook questions. So one is from Scott Geyser. I think that's who that is.
Oh, Scott Geyser?
Yeah.
It says, how would you decide, or how have you decided when the cycle of the book ends? And at what point do you know it's time to stop promoting your newest book and start working on another book?
Oh, so I mean, if we're talking about writing versus promotion, and I guess I'll do both. For this series, I knew it would be 3 books in my head. I actually had the whole very, very basic story fleshed out. And so once the 3 books were done, like I knew it was over. Like, and honestly, it took me 5 years to get this series out. And so I admit that I was also, while I loved the series and loved the characters, I was ready to move on to something else anyway. So for me, it was very organic that the story had its beginning, middle, and end. It felt like it was done and it was ready to move on to something else. Now, as far as actually how do you know when to stop like marketing or start promoting your next book? Oh God, that's such a good, complex question. So I'm an indie author, and indie authors, you have to do everything yourself. You're in charge of your books, your marketing, and everything. And whenever I first started writing, I was like, oh, it's going to be 80% writing, 20% marketing. But unfortunately, it's 100% writing, 100% marketing. And it's really difficult. Marketing is really tough because you don't know what's going to work. There's no tried and true formula to marketing a book. So honestly, what I should be doing if I were doing this perfectly is I should be taking time every day outside of writing to promote my first 3 books. I should be doing posts and reaching out and doing things for the first 3 books for my trilogy. At the same time, then, whenever that's finished, I should be writing in my next book, and then maybe even doing preliminary marketing around that, or at the very least, if I'm looking for like an agent for the book or someone to publish it, compiling a list or compiling a strategy around that 4th book. So that way, whenever it's done, you should already have something going even before a book is released. And so the tough answer is you need to be promoting the current books you have while working on your next books and doing the initiation promoting those next books. So it's like, that's why like being a writer is tough. Being an indie author is tough because you have to think about all of those things.
You did a lot of shitting on yourself there. Hang in.
2 questions from 2 different people, but they kind of go together. One is from Paul Pedersen, and the other one's from Eva Lucian. If you had anybody to direct your movies or your books into movies, who would you want them to be? And also, is there a Netflix limited series in the works? If not, there should be.
So okay. Well, I know that if my book were made into like a series or a movie, so I always thought that I would want Ben Platt to play Blaze Trails. But if you watch the trailer for the new Dear Evan Hansen and you see like his little wig, he looks like he's like 70 years old. So now, and I know that there's all these jokes about it, and I admit when I watched it, I'm like, what did they do to this boy? So I feel like at this point, he's probably too old to play Blaze, but he's in the back of my head. That's who I think of as Blaze. You know, like he's like cute but awkward and kind of charming in kind of a dorky way. You know, that kind of encapsulates it. As far as directing it, I don't know who was like a really, really premier up and coming LGBT director. Do we know of any?
Not director, I was going to say producer Jim Parsons did Special, which is impressive. Or other writers. I don't know directors, really.
Is Jim Parsons, he's Big Bang Theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I want him involved for sure.
He produced have you seen, well, anyway, it's on Special, it's on Netflix, but I don't know any.
Yeah, well, let's have someone come up. Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman, you know, and she was like the first big director. I met her and gave her my books because she did a speech, and I just ran up and I was like, I'm a big fan, and threw my book at her. And she actually talked to me for a while, and she was really cool. She wished happy birthday to my friend, you know, Terry Steed. Terry is a Wonder Woman obsessed maniac, and so I got her to wish him happy birthday, and she was really sweet. Yeah. So as far as a Netflix series, yeah, nothing. I mean, I'm indie. I'm a small author. I mean, that would be the dream. I did at one point talk to an actual Hollywood screenwriter who it was kind of like word of mouth, and I was super excited. And then I don't want to, like, he was very nice. And then I saw like the movie that he wrote, and it was like, you know, the movies on Rotten Tomatoes, they get like 0%.
Yeah.
Gosh. It was like one of those. But I don't want to poop on him. That sounds really mean, and I don't mean that, because he was very nice. He gave me a lot of advice, and we all are going to write or produce a clunker at some point in our lives.
Well, consider indie video game producers as well. That might be a way to get the fun message out there. And a lot of the indie video games are narratives. We're just choose your own adventure style.
Yeah.
See that being kind of a fun place. But it is 3 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of your time. We do have I think 3 more questions.
Oh, if people are good to stay on, I'm good to stay on and answer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Someone suggested Ryan Murphy. Let's see. There was a comment for Mimosa. Mimosa, you are a very good interviewer. Brava, you should be on NPR. There is a question. It says, you seem to like investigating writing about things that are stigmatized. Is there something or issue you aren't comfortable talking about? And that was from one of our sisters on screen, Garrett.
Oh, that I'm not comfortable talking about.
Yeah, what's your sticky spot?
Oh gosh. Well, and I'm trying to think of like if there's something uncomfortable versus something that I feel like maybe I'm not qualified for, because like I don't see myself writing a book about like a Black or African American protagonist and what they're experiencing because of their race. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, I admit, like as a privileged white guy, I don't feel I'm qualified to do that. And so that's something that I feel like I would feel icky if I were to try to write something like that. So that would be something that I feel like that's just more about being qualified to do that and not having the experience. So for me, that would be something. I will probably never write erotica for children. That's something that I'll probably never write.
It's such a juicy playing field.
And you know, it's such a low-hanging fruit because nobody's writing it.
No, because oftentimes things don't descend properly. So I don't think low-hanging fruit is the right.
That is true. And that's my answer.
One of our Father Maury asked that he likes your artwork. Who did it?
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so I did not get the art gene. So this is not me. I had to hire an artist. I wish I was an artist. Her name is Robin Vuchnich, and she is a full-time professional book cover artist. And so I actually went out and found her and had a conversation with her and just loved her. And she actually read the books. And typically, like, you know, she's always working on, you know, 10, 12 projects at a time. They don't have time to read all the books that they're doing covers for. Usually you get, like, I got this big old questionnaire that had all this information about my books, and then they take it and do some concepts based on that. But she actually read the books and was very complimentary, and so we worked together on it. And she is a miracle. Like, she is brilliant. Like, for my covers, I gave her almost no feedback. Like, these ideas were hers, and the only things that I came back to her were like, you know, can you move the pumpkin up a little bit, you know, or do this? But the concepts were all from her. She's brilliant. So if there's any aspiring authors who are looking, because I do think that as an indie author, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I think that in the indie world you kind of do, and I think it's okay, because the amount of love and care and effort you put into your cover, I think also can reveal how much love and effort you're putting into your book. Because I think we've all seen those where, like, the cover almost look like it's like a Comic Sans with a clip art in it, you know. But if any of you, I recommend, you know, you want to put your best foot forward and reach out to Robin Vuchnich if you want to cover, and she will do great things for you.
I'm curious though, I challenge one thing, or not a challenge, I just have a question, because the third book presents to me an image of the villain. Well, I'm going to call the person the villain without knowing the details behind the story. That doesn't look like that. Can you talk a little bit about what made you connect with that image when the well, I can't reveal what the siren is, but it's not what I pictured based on the cover. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was the thing where some of it was not giving away like any spoilers. And so I think instead of, you know, saying like a representation of this is who the siren really is, I think it's more, this is what people think of the siren.
Oh, okay.
You know, like they think of the siren, you see this person, you know, that she's controlling people and the horrible things that she's doing. You imagine this kind of vague monster that doesn't really have a face, that is kind of all encompassing and kind of doing bad things and trying to almost destroy the world in a sense. And so I think it's to represent that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Are you the siren mimosa?
I don't know.
Dun, dun.
You all feel compelled to do something naughty?
I think it's working.
Oh.
One of the questions also was from Eva Evolution. She wanted to know how can she get your book, get an autographed copy of your book.
Oh, so oh gosh, so I don't know if everyone's local. If we, I would love, honestly, if people are up for it here, to do a little event. You know, I think it'd be cool to get together. I can have some books. The other option would be to get a signed copy. We can always, I actually have copies here. So, and that's the thing is too, like being an indie author, my information, you can email me or reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook. You can message or email me and I will receive it and I will respond.
He's
So
a
we can either
receiver
do
and a
something.
giver, y'all.
Do what?
You're a receiver and a giver.
And that is 100% true.
I'm aware.
I'm a versatile corresponder.
Yes.
And
Many topics, many venues, many DMs. Slide.
Yeah. Many DMs. And yeah, so it would either be something to where I could, if you reach out to me and I have books here, I could sign and mail one to you, or you could order from Amazon. And if you just search my name on Amazon, my books are the first thing that comes up. So just search Cody Wagner and it's the first things you'll see. You could actually just have them shipped to me. I can give you my address and then I'm happy then to sign and just mail it back to you at no charge.
Oh, that is very good. Yes, Father Maury said that we are actually having an event on June 5th at the Bunkhouse here in Phoenix.
I've already given him all the details.
Oh.
You're being recruited, Cody. We're trying to pull you in as many people do.
I'm gonna walk in and there's gonna be like just the chair and all the stuff. I actually already have it on my calendar to be there. So barring anything I'm forgetting, because I am, let me just preface this, I am the most forgetful, scatterbrained person. Bill Dyer can attest to that. But barring anything I'm forgetting, I will be there. And I think it'd be great to see everybody and, you know, put, I was gonna say names to their faces, but I can see you. So that's the stupidest thing ever.
There is a comment from Heather Fallon and it says, hey, Cody is a super famous now. What? He's being interviewed by the sisters. Proud of all you do, hon. Sorry I missed the beginning of this. Hopefully you'll be available viewing later, which Opa responded, yes, we will view this later for those that actually miss majority of the conversations. So just let you know.
Yay.
It's PG-13, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, PG-13ish. It's like young adult.
Yeah,
It's
young
not
adults
brutal.
know more than what we just said here. I guarantee you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Bill Dyer said truth.
Yeah.
Exclamation point.
Well, we have a few, I guess Cody's okay. Any more questions or we'll call our time to an end?
That was all from the Facebook land.
Right. Well, Mr. Cody Wagner, thank you so much for spending some time with the sisters and the people in Facebook land and letting us into your life and the history behind Blaze and get dad, 18 Siren.
Got it, 18 Scott.
And we would always love to have you as a sister. So come try us out.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was wonderful. This was like the most fun. And you really are a really, really great interviewer. So you should definitely BBC for something cock.
Are you barebacking? Is this what's happening?
There you go, bareback cock.
There we go. Barebacking interviews.
There we go.
Sparkle, darkle, horrid, gold. Lady, everyone in Facebook land or anyone listening, we are a nonprofit organization. So this is a fundraising event. Click in the PayPal, $1, $2, $3 will make you holla, maybe 4, maybe 5. Give us a $5, whatever. If you enjoyed it, help us. Go ahead and donate. If not, tell your friends, pass it along. Thank you for joining us. And if you're watching this afterwards, thank you. And remember, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We're coming to an end. Pride Month is coming. Take care of yourself because being gay right now is complicated. So thank you for joining us. I hope you have a great Pride. Join us as we've talked about the Grand Canyon Sisters on June 5th at the Bunkhouse for a GCSPI, Grand Canyon Sisters only show. And Cody just said he's gonna show up. So come see him or just come, whatever. Have a delightful afternoon and a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and participating. Bye.
Bye.